8, 7, 6, 5.
Enough of this. Vader, release him.
As you wish.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 8 is Enough. I am UrzaMaster, and joining me as always, Lord Uther.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, welcome. We are kicking off a new series here at Pending Rebrand. A little bit shorter than our typical function, but we've been talking lately about stuff we like. And, you know, we do a show on Star Trek, we do a show on Star Wars, and we generally are kind of ranking things. So we've decided that we should do something around a top 10 or top 20 countdown or something that would be interesting. But to be honest, we're a little lazy, and we decided 8 is enough. So these are our top 8. No subject is off limits. And being that it's the holidays, Lord Uther, I thought we'd kick this one off with, I think, a topic that we just enjoy discussing in general, holiday movies. I know we both have some real strong favorites. The one movie we both agreed on pre-show here was It's a Wonderful Life. Easily the greatest movie of all time. And matter of fact, I think it's still the American Film Institute's #1 movie ever made. So we agreed that one, we're going to set that aside. That one's a clear #1. So these 8 are actually going to be all the other movies that we love for this holiday, which is coming up. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, the day after Christmas Day. I got to be honest, start this off, I have not watched any holiday movies so far this year. I've been a little too busy. Today, tried to watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas with my daughter for a little bit, and simultaneously was playing dinosaurs with her, and then she stopped playing to watch the movie, and I realized I'm exhausted because it's the holidays. So I shut my eyes for a little bit and missed a little over half the movie, but shout out to Taylor Momsen, who debuted in that movie, went on to be an incredible actress and songstress. Not to mention, her band is one of the best metal bands out there right now. So if you've not listened to The Pretty Reckless, highly recommended. We'll probably talk music in a future episode. But How the Grinch Stole Christmas, one of my favorites, did not make my top 8. But, you know, there's a lot of great holiday movies out there. Uther, I'd like to turn it over to you to kick us off.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone, from the two of us and the third guy who's not here right now, APC, but happy holidays from Pending Rebrand. Thank you for your continued support. And, you know, let us know what you think of the shows we go through. Please agree with us, argue with us, whatever you'd like to do in the comments below. And seeing as it's a holiday season, make sure you share this out. It's free. It's a free gift for everybody.
Free gift.
Click copy. Yeah, free gift. Share it out to everyone. Have them join us on the multiple shows that we have here at Pending. With that, whoa! I hit mute for a second.
Yourself. That's a Christmas miracle right there.
What's that? I don't want to even hear myself talk anymore. But yeah, so we're gonna again go with this kind of top 8 format, and I'll go ahead and start off. Obviously, I'm gonna go with Charlie Brown Christmas, and there's a couple reasons why. Which you maybe could say that's a TV show, but to me, it was kind of a ritual that happened every year when I was younger, and you know, as a kid, I remember I couldn't wait for it to come on, but this kind of lines up with the other Charlie Brown, movies that would be out there. And I knew the holidays were starting every time I would see the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and then the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving episode, and then getting to this, and just the memories that are attached to watching the show, having a Sears catalog for all you youngins out there. Before Amazon, there was the Sears catalog, and I would go through there, circle all the things I wanted for Christmas, and just memories attached to that, and just a good old Christmas show / movie. Number 8, Charlie Brown Christmas.
Love it. Good pick. I remember the tune. I remember watching it as a kid. I don't remember being that particularly enamored with it. But that was a cool thing that used to happen on TV, you know, before the days of cable. I mean, we had satellite TV, I guess, but like, you know, you all gathered around the broadcast, what was going to be on. You know, you dug out your TV guide a week in advance, and you're like, oh, you know, It's a Wonderful Life is going to be on Saturday at 7, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, all that kind of good stuff. I also selected a movie that I first saw on television for number 8, but this was years later on a little network known as Comedy Central, if you've heard of it. It was one of my unexpected favorites, and I hadn't really thought about this movie in a long time. But then I wanted to refresh my memory on what actually qualifies as a Christmas movie, because there are a few movies that are definitely Christmas movies that I wanted to put on my list, but I actually avoided them this time, so I'm sorry. There's no Die Hard, there's no Lethal Weapon, there's no Eyes Wide Shut, but I did happen to run across this, and I'm like, oh, I loved this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but that is, and this is a bit of a misdirect, but it's called The Hebrew Hammer. And it's a movie about a Jewish superhero that has to defend a crazed and evil Andy Dick Santa Claus who's trying to destroy Hanukkah. And so the Jewish superhero, the Hebrew Hammer, is joining up with, I believe, a Kwanzaa character, African-American guy. I forget the actor's name. But it's just a series of comedic hijinks that eventually puts them in an awkward situation where they're facing down Santa Claus at the North Pole. And I think there's some like nuclear weapon joke or something. But it's just one of those like really funny movies. And then, you know, Hebrew Hammer has to remind Santa about the true meaning of Christmas. And then Santa asks him, well, what's the true meaning of Hanukkah? And the two Jewish guys look at each other like, I don't know, something about latkes, you know, yeah, definitely latkes. And so it's just one of those great movies that, you know, it's definitely more vulgar if you see it not on TV.
Right.
You know, it's definitely more of a rated R flick, but I saw it on Comedy Central. It was definitely edited for time and content. But it was so feel good. It was so funny and just goofy. And it was better than 8 Crazy Nights, which I think a lot of people love, that animated Adam Sandler movie. I want to say they came out around the same time, like 2002 or 3.
Really? Okay.
And it was one of the ones that was on rotation, but it was only on in like the early afternoon during the week. So I'm sure I caught it when I like came home from school and my favorite cartoons were on rerun. So I was like, I don't want to watch the same episode again. And I'd cycle through I think we had 18 cable channels because we had like the basic package.
Right.
And yeah, so the Hebrew Hammer still gets my nod. I'd love to see a sequel. If I think was it Adam Goldsmith that did that movie? Really, just tremendously funny, underrated for sure.
I've never seen it. I'll have to check it out. It sounds great.
It's wonderful.
Right, I'm gonna have to find that one. My number 7, I think for a while there wasn't really considered a Christmas movie and seems to have a little bit of resurgence, and that's Batman Returns. For me, that's my number 7. Unlike you, I'm probably going to go off the like regular Christmas path in a sense and take those movies that have, you know, Christmas in it. But A Dark Snowy Gotham was just so beautifully shot by Tim Burton to give you that sense of winter and Christmas time there. The great shots of the Batmobile, that Batman 89 Batmobile that to me just kind of kicked off, and we've talked about this before. To me, Batman 89 kicks off all the great superhero movies that we have now. So to see the Batmobile going through the streets of that, you know, the snowy streets of Gotham, and in Wayne Manor, one of my favorite scenes too is he's got that massive fireplace and it's actually lit up. And so you could almost feel the warmth because Tim Burton is just such an amazing, you know, director and so good with his editing and the shots that he puts together. Yeah, so Batman flying around the Christmas tree at one point. So to me, Batman Returns, a great Christmas film, and that is my number 7.
Nice, great pick. I really struggled not putting that one on my list because I really love those first two Batman movies. Although I'm going to be the oddball out and say Val Kilmer is my favorite Batman, but
Oh boy, yeah.
I've fought that battle so many times. Like it's just one of those things I got to say. It's just me. It's probably just me. My number 7 is a more recent film, and I have to be pretty brutally honest. The only reason I first watched this movie is I have an enormous celebrity crush on Anna Kendrick, and that, of course, is Noelle. Netflix, I think, original movie. It's got Anna Kendrick. It's got is it Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live,
Okay.
and a few of like those associated Saturday Night Live people. Really heartfelt Christmas movie. Very funny. A lot of funny situations. Essentially, it's the kids of Santa. Santa's passed away, and one of them, the son, is supposed to take Santa's place, but he runs away to become like a yoga studio guy in California. And,
Wow.
Noelle is actually the one who's really good at it, but because she's a girl, she's not supposed to be Santa, and she doesn't really have the Santa powers, and then they like sort of start to happen for her. And, it's a fairly predictable, kind of cheesy storyline, but there's a lot of just really heartfelt family moments. Like there's one where it's a homeless shelter, and this deaf girl and her mom are in a homeless shelter together, and the little girl just wants to ask Santa for a job for her mom because they're on hard times, and an iPad because everybody in the movie wants an iPad. But it's really cute. It's very funny. There's a lot of like, I'm from the North Pole and I don't know anything about anything moments. Like, it's so hot here and I'm all bundled up. It's stuff that's like, okay, this is really kitsch, but I don't know. Something about it just like makes me happy. And it could just be that it's Anna Kendrick and she's cute, and I just like, she's so bubbly and seems so friendly and fun that I'm like, if ever there was a daughter of Santa Claus, it seems like she'd be his daughter because she's just that nice. I'd like to think maybe in real life she's actually just kind of evil and like something, but no, she's probably just tremendous. But that movie should have won awards if it didn't, because it's really, really good. So that's my number 7.
All right. My number 6 is a movie you already talked about, The Grinch, that you fell asleep there for a little while. To me, Jim Carrey just pulls it off, right? The way he can manipulate his face, that was part of it. I really felt like Ron Howard captured what Whoville and all the Who's would look like. I mean, to me, he completely, again, nailed that part. But what seals the deal for me is Anthony Hopkins doing the narration, and his words are so precise and crisp that he guides you through that entire movie, and just blending it with the way Jim Carrey, I was going to say carried himself, but hello. Anyway, the way Jim Carrey was able to do it, just the way he manipulates his body, and it's been noted in several things. It was almost, with his face, especially with the Grinch, it was very Mask. Like, I compare it to Mask because he, a lot of people, when that first came out, they thought that, Jim Carrey wasn't doing that. It was some kind of CGI, or they were doing things with his face, but it was him. Like, he can contort himself like that. And we see the same thing in The Grinch. So my number 6, The Grinch, Jim Carrey version.
Yeah, that was the second DVD I ever got. How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. The first, Shrek. So a couple of real big winners that year.
Yes.
My number 6 is a retelling of a very classic Christmas story, starring a tremendous, tremendous actor. You may have seen this featured on one of our most recent pending rebrands, Cinebits, and that is Scrooged with Bill Murray and Bobcat Goldthwait. I'm pretty sure I first saw this movie on Comedy Central as well, and it was definitely edited. Because when I bought it and watched it later in life, I was really surprised by all the things I didn't remember from the movie. But I thought it was really, it's just a really incredible way to tell that story. It's very heartfelt, I don't think there's any way better to describe it than it's just very Bill Murray, because he can be very goofy, very over the top, and there's definitely some of that. You can also be like very serious, and there's some of that, and then somehow it sort of blends together in this way that pulls on your heartstrings in ways you don't expect. And I've just always thought that movie was just so brilliant for what it was, and it gets a lot of credit, but sometimes I wonder, like, does it get the credit it really even deserves? Because it just seems to get better with age. It also comes off as almost Dickensian and almost sort of, why is this escaping me now? Tim Burton-esque. Because it feels sort of creepy at times, but I think it's just the 80s, to be honest. It was the coloration and the fidelity of the 80s video. And I loved everything about it, and I wish more movies like that had those elements.
Excellent pick. My wife and daughter were actually watching that a little while ago, so
Nice.
Very good pick there. Love it. My number 5, it's Christmas Story. It's probably I know, it's cliche. I know it is, but to kind of go back to a conversation we were having before we started the podcast, to me, it's very family. It's just crazy family. You were saying holiday hijinks earlier, but to me, that's what it is, right? It's all these vignettes of crazy holiday hijinks that they're going through, from, getting the tongue stuck on the pole. To me, what I think really got me with this is, and I think all kids, we've all gone through it, the toy you wanted for Christmas, were told you weren't going to get, and then you open up your gifts, and there it is. It's like when I got the Millennium Falcon. When I started opening up that, because I heard all year we didn't have the money, we weren't be able to get it, couldn't afford it, all those things. Totally get it, right? I mean, my dad was a carpenter, my mom was staying at home taking care of us, so money was always kind of tight. And I remember tearing open the packaging. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, it was incredible. It's everything you wish for as a kid on Christmas. And to me, that's something that story really speaks to as well. It's just, I'm never going to get that. I want it so bad. And then there it is. So that's why, for me, it kind of sticks with me. My number 5, A Christmas Story.
Love it. I don't care for that movie.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have to belabor that. I don't know why. I haven't watched it in a very, very, very long time. I want to say it was probably 12 or 14 maybe when I watched it the last time. I should watch it again, give it a chance. My grandma loved that movie. My dad loves that movie. My aunts and uncles all love that movie. To me, it just never... I think it was always aimed at a more adult audience.
I could see that. Yeah.
I think maybe I was too young to appreciate it. So now in my mid-30s, like, I probably will enjoy it more. So I'll try it again. But my number 5 is it's actually the same movie as Scrooged, but in a different iteration. This, also featuring Jim Carrey, is the animated version of A Christmas Carol. This one came out a few years ago. It's all CGI animated. And I know anytime, especially for its era, like, CGI animation was not great, but it was getting to the point where it's pretty good. This really kind of, I didn't watch it in the theater. I didn't probably the first few years that it's out, I didn't see it. And then I don't remember if it was after we had our first, our daughter, or if it was shortly before, maybe the year before, that I first saw it. And I love A Christmas Carol. That book has been with me forever. I read it in school and I loved it. I wrote a paper about it in college. I've seen it at the Guthrie Theater here in Minneapolis a couple of times. Different productions of it. I've seen many different adaptations of it, but this one in particular just speaks to me. I don't know why. It makes me emotional. You really feel for Jim Carrey, and it's because he plays. He can play the dark character, the number 23, like dark, evil sort of characters, and then the really innocent, also number 23, or kind of the Mask type characters where it's like, wow, there's a huge difference between just the range of that guy, and just Gary Oldman's great in the movie. Like everything that went into that, I don't know. In the animation, it's like spooky and scary, but it's also like heartfelt and hopeful. And I don't know if it just happened to be like the right time in my life that I saw it, or it's just the right message that's just timeless as it is. But Jim Carrey's animated version of A Christmas Carol, it's just one of those. Every time I see it, I'm like, I can't believe how good this is. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be, because it's kind of a short story, but it always hits me right in the feels. So had to make my list.
Never seen it, so there's another one I have to see.
Really good.
Okay. All right. I'm going to watch it. My number 4 is the shirt I have on, which maybe some of you can see, right? So there we go. My number 4 is Elf, for so many reasons. It's something to me that the humor is there for kids and adults, and I think that's a very fine line. That's not always easy to do, and I think they pull it off, extremely well in this film. It's incredibly quotable. I mean, ginormous, all, any kind of term you want to come up with, just there's so many quotes you can pull from it too. And the other thing I like about it is the story behind what was happening with this film, and Will Ferrell saying, he's sitting there, he's not sure if this was going to work, if this film was actually going to, be successful or not. And he knew that his career at this point was hinging on what this film was going to do. And he had talked about just sitting in his trailer going, my career might be over. Like, this might totally bomb. And we know him and the director did not get along very well. I believe that was one of our Cinebits, if I'm correct, or some of the information that was in one of them. And they knock it out of the park. The whole idea of holiday spirit, kind of bringing people together, and that's the joy of Christmas. It's got all those, feel good, family moments, a lot of feel good stories. What was that?
It's got James Caan.
It's got James Caan, who's good in anything. So for me, just a solid holiday movie. I think we've already watched it 3 or 4 times already, and it seems to be on TNT every other night. So, but that's also a movie too. Like, if it's on, I'll leave it on. I typically won't go away from it. So I think that's another reason it kind of falls into that slot for me as well. So Elf, my number 4.
Love it. Great pick. My number 4, this is one I watched as a kid. I've always loved it. It is absolutely a Christmas movie, though my wife disagrees. And I find that of my generation, there is a pretty good split between whether you're a huge Goonies fan or you're a huge Gremlins fan. And I am a Gremlins fan. I love the Goonies too. I had a bootleg VHS of it like most of us poor kids back in the day had. But Gremlins was one I remember watching over and over and over and over every Christmas. Even not Christmas, when you could rent movies, I'd rent it from Blockbuster or Premiere Video or Family Video or wherever I could. If it was on the shelf and they had a copy there, and I had an extra rental, you betcha, I'm taking Gremlins. Gizmo, my aunt had a dog named Gizmo for like 22 years. Love that dog. Love that character. Howie Mandel. I don't know if he anticipated making a character from little noises and singing into a timeless classic, but absolutely Gremlins, outstanding film. Highly recommended for anybody.
Elijah loves that movie. Did not make my list. Was definitely thinking about it. Not gonna lie, it was right there. Great pick as always. UrzaMaster.
And that's why you got to subscribe.
That's right. Come on now. My number 3. I just think it's synonymous with Christmas. Unbelievably quotable. And that's going to be Christmas Vacation. And in my opinion, Cousin Eddie just steals the movie. Randy Quaid's portrayal of Cousin Eddie, Even though Chevy Chase is great as obviously as Clark Griswold, but man, there's just something about Cousin Eddie in that film. When he's pumping the waste out of his RV. I mean, just think, that there, Clark, is an RV. I mean, there's just so many lines that you can pull from there that I think are kind of ingrained in Christmas. But my buddies and I are saying those lines in July, though. So it's always there. My wife will watch it any time of the year. This is her favorite Christmas movie, without a doubt. And I'm going to take a wild guess that this film actually has impacted America, because I think the light on the house craze really took off after this film. I mean, I think, you'd see lights in the front yard kind of thing, or like thrown in the bushes or something like that. But now, I mean, we went looking at Christmas lights, I think 2 weeks ago, and there's an app, and you follow them around, you can rate them. This year we were seeing a lot of like Star Wars inflatables, like for Christmas. That seems to kind of be the thing this year. Mm-hmm. But I think it starts with this movie. Like the idea of, I'm going to go crazy on my house, and, it's going to be able to be seen from orbit. It's something it does. Like, it starts right here. So for me, Christmas Vacation, getting the tree, there's just so many things. Timeless classic.
Absolutely. It was a movie I didn't like for the longest time either. Again, I think I need to rewatch it, because the only thing I remember is he's waiting on this big bonus check.
Yes.
That of course doesn't happen. And he's envisioning, like, was it a pool in his backyard?
Yes.
And this beautiful bikini-clad girl, and it's like, Mele Kaliki Maka.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's the only thing I remember of that movie.
You got to go back watch it again, dude. It's so
I got to
good.
watch it again, because it's
so good.
It sounds to me now it sounds good. To me in my late teens I was like, bah. But of course I am one. I put lights. I look at my house now and I'm like, there's not enough lights. I don't have enough outlets outside to power the lights I have now. You should see the fire hazard at my front doorstep. My number 3. It's another movie I could watch year round, and as a matter of fact, I do. Certainly start to watch this movie in October, and that's The Nightmare Before Christmas. I grew up with this movie. I was like borderline a goth kid with how much I loved this movie, and nothing against goths. Love them. Wish I was one of them. Could not afford the black clothing. Would have been thrown out of my house for wearing the eyeliner. But I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't care for musicals, but there are a number of them that I count among my favorite films, and this is one of them. I especially enjoyed, now the narrator in the movie itself is not Patrick Stewart, but if you listen to the soundtrack that was later reissued, Patrick Stewart narrates the soundtrack. So that's one. I always thought it sounded like him, being a Next Generation fan. If you're a subscriber, you've probably seen the Warp Core podcast. Let me just say, anything Patrick Stewart, I did not put The Lion in Winter on my list. It almost made it. But this is definitely one of those movies that I wish he would have been in some capacity. I've always wanted them to do a sequel and somehow involve Patrick Stewart, just because I think it would be really good. But yeah, it's timeless. If you haven't seen it, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Wonderful. Love it. My number 2, it's Die Hard. Sorry. To me, it's a Christmas movie. I know. There's a couple reasons. And Lethal Weapon didn't make my list. And it could have, but I decided I had to pick one or the other. Because those are movies I can watch any old time. I think they're very ingrained in our culture now, in a sense. But for me, there's a couple things that really stood out in Die Hard. I remember watching this and being from Chicago. You got Bruce Willis driving to the Nakatomi Plaza, and he's driving by palm trees, and it's sunny. Well, it's smoggy out. It's like hazy outside. I mean, but like there's no snow anywhere, and that blew my mind the first time I saw it, because I'm like, no snow at Christmas? How do you have Christmas without snow? Like, this can't happen.
Asking myself that today.
Yeah, well, yeah, with what we're going through, I'm like, there's no way. So that kind of stuck out in my head. The classic line, "Now I have a gun, ho, ho, Oh, so there's another one. Again, quotable film. Love when John McClane has the gun taped to his back with Christmas tape. And of course, without a doubt, some of the best Christmas music ever from Run DMC with Christmas and Hollis. How could you not just absolutely love it? So for me, Die Hard, Christmas film, my number 2.
Love it. I do love Die Hard. It did not make my list, but I love all the Die Hard movies. Even the weird one where he meets his son in Russia. Like, okay, all right.
Sure.
Anything
yeah,
Bruce Willis. I like. We didn't get enough time with Bruce Willis. He's not dead, but yeah, but thoughts with his family because he's going through a hard time. But I love Bruce Willis, absolute national icon, national treasure. My number 2 has already been said. I go back to Will Ferrell not realizing he's making the next Christmas classic that's going to be with us for generations to come, and that's Elf. It's my second favorite Zooey Deschanel movie. The first being The New Guy. But I loved everything about Elf. Heartfelt, great awkward moments, especially when Zooey Deschanel's in the shower and he's innocently just singing Christmas carols with her. The guzzling of the Coca-Cola 2-liter and then burping and then turning to the person right next to him saying, "Did you hear that?" James Caan in the movie is brilliant. May he rest in peace. I love Peter Dinklage in this movie. I know that Peter Dinklage does not like to do the kind of obvious little person roles.
Right.
I loved everything about his bit in this movie. I think it was really eloquently done. I loved how like the elves were not, they weren't like the Lollipop Guild, right?
Yeah,
like
that was cool. That's a good point.
it was really cool. There's just so much good stuff in this movie. And it just like you start thinking about it and like scenes just pop in your head. And I think about when he's eating the gum in New York City and how freaking gross that was. And like, how did they film that? Because like that's legit on the street in New York City.
Well, did you? I don't know. I can't remember if this was a Cinebit or not, or if it's something I was looking up for one of my classes. But I guess the director of the movie literally was just driving him around New York and kicking him out of the van, and he was improvised. All that's improvised.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
The guy he runs up to and he's like, "Santa is just some dude. He's not even credited. He's just some guy."
That's awesome.
It's amazing. So yeah, Elf, my number 2. I love that movie. It's probably the one that I do watch every year.
Yeah. Obviously, awesome pick because it was one of mine. So my number 1's already been said. Scrooged. That is my number 1 film. I think it's one of Bill Murray's best performances, and I love everything you said earlier. Of course, I'm gonna compare it to again one of our other shows, which if you click and subscribe below, you'll be able to hear all the wonderful content that we get out here at Pending Rebrand, and for all of our millions
and millions
of fans, just so you know, 8 is Enough is going to be a little bit quicker of a pod for us when we do these. So just a heads up there. I'm going to compare Bill Murray's performance to Leonard Nimoy. Ethan Peck is playing Spock. Like Bill Murray is going from what to me at the beginning of the film is just a miserable cuss, right? Like he's getting through life. He's taking everything he can. Doesn't care about the people around him. Doesn't care about his family. Any of that stuff, right? Like he's playing everyone like a fiddle, and we see him go through this amazing arc to this person that is spreading all this joy and this love, and he's singing at the end of the film, and like you're right on board with him. Where you could have hated him at the beginning. Like I mean, that's how great, in my opinion, of a performance was. Like it's almost a little Grinchian at the beginning of the film as well, and he totally. It's kind of like a Grinch arc to me too, right? Like he's mad and he's blah blah blah, and then he winds up loving it. Like you said earlier, anytime you can get Bobcat Goldthwait in anything, I'm right there with you. And And to me, Karen Allen, completely underrated. Think of the movies that she's Animal House, Indiana Jones, Scrooge. I mean, she's been all over the place and done a phenomenal job. And what to me, what really brought the entire film together is at the very, the speech at the end, obviously by Bill Murray. And then you have the kids saying, God bless us, everybody. And then you've got the musical number during the credits that is just phenomenal. Like you could feel the Christmas joy, you could feel the Christmas spirit. So for me, and again, it's a movie I can watch any time of the year. So Scrooge, that's my number one.
That's an excellent pick. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of these movies really can be rearranged on the numbers in any way,
Agreed.
and they're still good. They only get better with time. I mean, even a pick like Noel, which for me started as a flight of fancy, it really becomes something that digs into your heart and pulls at your heartstrings. My number one has not been said, and I'm a little bit shocked. And this could be me being an '80s baby growing up in the
What are you gonna
'90s,
say?
but I gotta go with my guy Tim Allen and the Santa Claus.
Oh,
I
interesting.
love that movie, and I
It's a
love
good
it even
film.
more as a parent now, as an adult, around the age of Tim Allen in the movie, and and they're making the Santa Claus's show now. Like all of the movies were great. The thing is, like they weren't as good as the first one. The first one's always usually the best, but the the thing about the Santa Claus that to me, like, I can watch all the other ones and I enjoy them thoroughly and they're very Christmas. The first one is just, it's everything. It's your childhood made manifest, like all the reality of Santa to you as a kid and the things you see, the hot cocoa that just tastes incredible, the elves that are like, little kids, but they're all actually like super old, the Bernard, like, and it still goes unanswered. Who was the Santa Claus before Tim Allen? Was it Bernard? All these things. Like, there's so much to that movie that's just so amazing. Like, I still have my VHS copy I watched when I was a kid. It's actually in my daughter's room right now. And she loves it. And sharing that with her, and then my wife was very passionate about this movie, so it's kind of interesting when we're both the same age, so it makes sense, right? But it's one of those things that, unlike a lot of the other Christmas movies I love and enjoy, some of them are very just like my personal. Like I really love Gremlins. My wife, Goonies fan, likes Gremlins. Yeah, could take it or leave it. But this is the one movie I think as a family we all really truly share. Now, of course, my number one is going to always be It's a Wonderful Life, but the Santa Claus to me,
Same here.
like, it had a split family. You didn't see that too much in the '90s, honestly, with all the like radical inclusive stuff they did. And I was from a split family. My wife family split later in life, but like she understood what that was all about, and like that was something that for me became very personal, and I realized it also brought in huge amounts of other people who didn't understand that life and what that can be like, for some kids. And that's just scratching the surface even of how deep this movie is. So
Right.
whatever holiday movies you choose in your top 8 pending rebrand fans, we want to hear about it. Drop us a comment. Let us know below what you think. Now, if you're a commenter on any of our other videos, we are right on the money with getting back to you. APC, who is not with us on this broadcast, he is also out in there in our comments as well. And let me tell you, we want all of you, no matter whether you celebrate the Christmas holiday or a different one, to have a wonderful holiday season and a joyous, joyous new year. Whatever the weather may be by you, let's all have a crisp, cold, perhaps even frigid, snowy Christmas in our hearts and in our minds. Thanks from all of us at Pending Rebrand. Thanks to you. We've done 38-ish minutes, and I'd say, 8 is enough.